the CEO, thought he had everything. Then he met a black single mom. She was tired, broken, working 3 jobs just to keep her son alive. He was powerful, wealthy, but empty inside, convinced that kindness was dead in this world. On a rainy Tuesday evening, their paths crossed in the most unexpected way. What happened next would change everything they thought they knew about life, love, and the power of a simple act of grace. This is the story of how a single mother's strength taught a CEO what truly matters, and how one moment of compassion created a miracle neither of them saw coming. The alarm clock screamed at 4:30 in the morning, but Naomi Carter was already awake. She had been staring at the ceiling for the past hour, doing math in her head, the kind of math that never added up no matter how many times she tried. Rent was due in 5 days. Marcus needed his medication refilled. The electric bill was already 2 weeks late. She sat up slowly, careful not to wake her son who slept peacefully in the small bedroom they shared. At 32 years old, Naomi felt twice that age. Her body ached from yesterday's double shift at the diner, and her mind raced with the endless list of things that needed doing, paying, fixing. The apartment was small, just 1 bedroom in a building that had seen better days. But it was clean. Naomi made sure of that. The walls might be cracked and the carpet worn, but there were fresh flowers she had picked from the park in a jar on the windowsill, and Marcus's artwork covered the refrigerator like badges of honor. She moved quietly to the kitchen and made coffee with the last of the grounds, stretching them thin with extra water. As the coffee brewed, she looked at the stack of bills on the table. Medical bills, mostly. Marcus had been born with a congenital heart defect, a hole in his heart that doctors said would require surgery. Soon, the surgery would cost more than she made in 2 years. Naomi closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had been praying every night, asking God for a miracle, for a way forward that she could not see. But the silence was heavy, and the fear was heavier. "Mama?" A small voice called from the bedroom. Naomi's face transformed instantly, the worry melting into a warm smile. "Good morning, baby. You're up early." Marcus appeared in the doorway, 8 years old, with curious brown eyes and a smile that could light up the darkest room. He was small for his age, his condition making him tire easily, but his spirit was giant. "I wanted to have breakfast with you before you go to work," he said. Climbing into the chair beside her, Naomi's heart squeezed. She worked 3 jobs: morning shift at a nursing home, afternoon shift at the diner, and weekend nights cleaning offices. Marcus spent most of his time with Mrs. Time, Rodriguez next door, a kind elderly woman who watched him for a price Naomi could barely afford but couldn't do without. "Well, aren't I lucky?" Naomi said, pulling out a box of cereal and the last of the milk. She poured carefully, making sure Marcus got more than enough. They ate together in comfortable silence, and Naomi watched her son, memorizing his face the way she did every morning, just in case. The doctors had said his condition was stable for now, but she saw how he got winded going upstairs, how he couldn't play as hard as other kids. "Mama, when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor," Marcus announced suddenly. "Is that right?" "Yes, and I'm going to help kids like me, kids whose hearts don't work right, and I'm going to make it free, so their mamas don't have to be sad." Naomi's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "That's a beautiful dream, baby, and I believe you'll do it." "You won't have to work so much then," Marcus continued. "I'll take care of you." Naomi reached across the table and took his small hand in hers. "You already take care of me, Marcus, every single day." After breakfast, Naomi got Marcus ready for school, a uniform that was getting too small, shoes she had reinforced with cardboard to cover the holes. She walked him to the bus stop, kissed his forehead 3 times like she always did, and watched the yellow bus carry away her whole world. Then she went to work. The nursing home smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Naomi moved from room to room, helping elderly residents with their morning routines: bathing, dressing, serving breakfast. She listened to their stories, held their hands, made them laugh. This was the job that fed her soul, even when it exhausted her body. "You're an angel, Naomi," Mrs. Patterson said as Naomi helped her into her wheelchair. "No, ma'am, just doing my job. There's a difference between doing a job and doing it with love, child. You do everything with love." Naomi smiled, but inside she felt like a fraud. How could she be an angel when she couldn't even afford to fix her own son's heart? Across town, Robert Sullivan sat in his corner office on the 42nd floor, looking out at a city he had conquered, but no longer felt part of. At 38, he was everything society said a man should be: successful, wealthy, powerful, CEO of Sullivan Tech, a company he had built from nothing into a multi-million-dollar empire. But success, he had learned, was a lonely throne. His assistant knocked softly. "Mr. Sullivan, your 2 o'clock is here." Robert nodded without turning around. Another meeting, another deal, another day of moving money and making decisions that affected hundreds of people he would never meet. He had not always been this way, this cold, this detached. There was a time when Robert believed in people, in kindness, in community. But life had taught him otherwise. His ex-wife had left him the moment his company hit a rough patch, taking their daughter, Lily, with her. Then, 3 years ago, Lily had died suddenly from a heart condition no one knew she had. She was only 6 years old. Robert had thrown himself into work after that, building walls around his heart that nothing could penetrate. He donated to charities large, tax-deductible amounts. But he never got involved. Money was easy. Caring was dangerous. The meeting was with investors, men who spoke in numbers and percentages, who cared only about returns. Robert played the game perfectly, saying what they needed to hear, making promises he knew he could keep. But as they talked, he felt a growing emptiness, a voice in his head asking, "Is this all there is?" By 6 o'clock, Robert was exhausted in a way that sleep could never fix. He dismissed his driver and decided to walk, needing air, needing to feel something other than the numbness that had become his constant companion. The rain started suddenly, a spring storm that sent people scrambling for cover. Robert had no umbrella, but he kept walking, letting the rain soak through his expensive suit. Maybe if he got cold enough, wet enough, he would feel alive again. He ended up in a part of town he normally avoided. Not dangerous, just ordinary. Small shops, bus stops, people finishing their workdays and heading home to families. Robert envied them in a way he would never admit. That's when he saw her, a woman standing at a bus stop, trying to shield a bag of groceries from the rain with her own body. She wore a diner uniform and looked completely exhausted. But when a young mother with a baby struggled past, the woman offered her umbrella, the only one she had, without hesitation. Robert stopped walking. The young mother thanked her profusely, but the woman in the diner uniform just smiled and said something Robert couldn't hear. Then she stood there, getting soaked, groceries in her arms, waiting for a bus that the digital signs said wouldn't arrive for another 20 minutes. Something stirred in Robert's chest, something he thought had died with Lily. Without thinking, he approached. "Excuse me." The woman turned, and Robert saw her face clearly for the first time. She was beautiful in an unpolished, real, way-tired eyes that still held kindness, a smile that looked like it took effort but was genuine nonetheless. "Yes?" she said. "You gave away your umbrella." She glanced at the young mother walking away. "She needed it more. She had a baby. But now you're getting wet." The woman shrugged. "I'll dry." Robert found himself smiling for the first time in weeks. "Can I give you a ride? I have a car." She looked at him cautiously, this well-dressed stranger with kind eyes. "That's nice of you, but I'm okay. Bus will be here soon." 20 minutes in the rain. "Please, I insist." Naomi studied him for a long moment, and Robert could see her weighing the risk, the kindness of strangers against the dangers she had probably been warned about her whole life. "I appreciate it," she finally said, "but I'm okay. Thank you, though." Not many people would stop. Robert nodded, respecting her caution. "At least let me wait with you. I don't have anywhere to be." And so they stood there together, two strangers at a bus stop in the rain, one with everything money could buy and nothing that mattered, the other with nothing money could fix but everything that did. They talked. Robert learned her name was Naomi, that she worked 3 jobs, that she had a son. Naomi learned that Robert ran a company, that he had lost someone, that he was tired in a different way than she was. When the bus finally came, Naomi gathered her soggy groceries and paused. "Thank you for the company. Thank you for the reminder," Robert said. "Reminder of what?" "That kind people still exist." Naomi smiled, a real smile this time. "They're everywhere. You just have to look. The bus doors closed and she was gone. Robert stood there, rain-soaked and somehow lighter than he had felt in years. 3 days after the rainstorm, Naomi's world collapsed. She was halfway through her diner shift, refilling coffee and taking orders with the practiced efficiency of someone who could do it in her sleep, when her phone rang. The number was Marcus's school. "Is this Ms. Carter?" "Yes, this is she." "Ms. Carter, this is Nurse Williams at Riverside Elementary. Marcus has collapsed. We've called an ambulance." Their shadow stretching of distance. The phone slipped from Naomi's hand. The next hours were a blur, begging her manager to leave, running 6 blocks because she couldn't afford a cab, bursting through emergency room doors with her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. "I'm looking for Marcus Carter. He's 8. They brought him in by ambulance." A tired nurse checked a computer. "Room 7. Through those doors." Naomi ran, her work shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. When she saw Marcus lying in the hospital bed, so small under the white sheets with tubes and wires connected to his little body, she nearly collapsed herself. "Baby, I'm here. Mama's here." Marcus opened his eyes. Thank God he opened his eyes. "Mama, I'm sorry. We were playing at recess and I got tired." "Shh, don't be sorry. Don't you ever be sorry." Naomi kissed his forehead over and over, each kiss a prayer. A doctor entered, a young woman with a serious expression. "Ms. Carter? I'm Dr. Patel. Marcus is stable now, but we need to talk." They stepped outside the room, and Naomi braced herself. "Marcus's heart condition has progressed faster than we expected. The hole has gotten larger. He needs surgery, and he needs it soon, within the next month, or we're looking at serious, possibly fatal complications." Naomi had known this was coming, but hearing it said out loud made it real in a way that stole her breath. "How much?" she whispered. Dr. Patel hesitated. "With your insurance, your out-of-pocket costs would be around $75,000. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Naomi made about $30,000 a year before taxes, before rent, before food and medicine and everything else Marcus needed. "There are payment plans," Dr. Patel continued gently, "and there are charitable organizations that sometimes help with children's medical care. I can have our social worker come talk to you." Naomi nodded, but she couldn't speak. $75,000 might as well have been 75 million. Marcus was kept overnight for observation. Naomi slept in a chair beside his bed, holding his hand, watching the monitors beep and flash with numbers she didn't understand, but that represented her son's life. In the early morning hours, when the hospital was quiet except for the distant sounds of machines and soft footsteps, Naomi finally let herself cry. She cried quietly so as not to wake Marcus, her tears falling onto their joined hands. "God," she whispered, "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save him. Please, please show me the way." No answer came, just the steady beep of the heart monitor, and the sound of her son breathing each breath, a gift she could not afford to keep. The next day, they were discharged with a stack of papers and a follow-up appointment with a pediatric heart surgeon. Naomi took Marcus home, called in sick to all 3 jobs, losing precious money she couldn't spare, and spent the day making phone calls to charities, foundations, anyone who might help. The answers were all the same: waiting lists, limited funding, try back next year. "We're sorry, but we can't help." By evening, Naomi was out of options and out of hope. She sat at the kitchen table with the surgical estimate, the number mocking her with its impossibility. Marcus was in the bedroom, drawing pictures like nothing was wrong, and Naomi was trying to figure out how to tell him that his mama, who had always found a way, always made things work, didn't know how to save his life. Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on the door with a pot of soup. The kind elderly neighbor took one look at Naomi's face and set the soup down. "Tell me," she said simply. And Naomi did. She told her everything: the collapse, the doctor's words, the impossible amount of money. Mrs. Rodriguez listened, holding Naomi's hands, and when Naomi finished, the older woman spoke with quiet certainty. "God has not brought Marcus this far to leave him now. You have to believe that, Mija. You have to hold on to faith when nothing else makes sense." "I'm trying," Naomi whispered, "but I'm so tired." "I know. But you're not alone. We're going to figure this out." But as the days passed, figuring it out seemed increasingly impossible. Naomi went back to work, moving through her shifts like a ghost. She smiled at customers, cared for the elderly residents, cleaned offices at night all while carrying the weight of knowing her son was dying, and she couldn't stop it. 2 weeks later, the eviction notice came. She was 3 months behind on rent. She had 30 days to pay or leave. Naomi read the notice twice, 3 times, hoping the words would change. They didn't. That night, after Marcus was asleep, Naomi stood at the window looking out at the city lights, feeling like she was drowning in air. She had always been strong, always found a way to keep going. But this was too much. For the first time in her life, Naomi Carter didn't know how to be strong anymore. Robert Sullivan had not been able to forget the woman from the bus stop. There was something about Naomi, her quiet dignity, her kindness in the midst of her own struggles, that had stayed with him. In board meetings, he found himself wondering if she was okay. At night, staring at the ceiling of his empty penthouse, he thought about her giving away her only umbrella. He had tried to push the thoughts away. He had built his walls for a reason, but the walls were cracking. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Robert's administrative assistant Jennifer mentioned something that made him freeze. "There's a woman from the cleaning crew who's been asking about emergency assistance programs," Jennifer said casually. "Something about her son needing heart surgery. I gave her the information for our corporate foundation, but she doesn't qualify. Her income is slightly too high." Robert looked up. "What's her name?" Jennifer checked her notes. Naomi Carter. Robert felt like the air had been sucked from the room. "What floor does she clean?" 40 to 45, I believe. Night shift. That evening, Robert stayed late at the office, something he rarely did anymore, preferring to work from his home office. At 8 o'clock, he heard the sound of a vacuum cleaner down the hall. He found her in the conference room, headphones in, moving efficiently from corner to corner. She looked even more tired than she had at the bus stop, like she was running on nothing but willpower. Robert knocked on the glass door. Naomi looked up, startled, then pulled out her headphones. When she recognized him, her eyes widened. "Bus stop guy," she said with a surprised smile. "Robert Sullivan," he said, extending his hand. "Apparently, I'm also the CEO of the company whose offices you're cleaning." Naomi's smile faltered. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan. I didn't know. I'll make sure to do a more thorough job." No, that's not why I'm here." Robert paused. "Can we talk?" They sat in the conference room, city lights spread out below them. Robert had rehearsed what he would say, but now, looking at Naomi's guarded expression, all his prepared words fled. "I heard about your son," he said finally. Naomi's back straightened. "I don't need charity." "I know, but maybe you need help. There's a difference." "Is there?" Naomi stood up. "Look, Mr. Sullivan, I appreciate your concern, but my daughter died from a heart condition," Robert said quietly. Naomi sat back down. "She was 6 years old. She collapsed at school one day, just like your son. By the time we got her to the hospital, it was too late. There was nothing they could do." Robert's voice cracked, and he realized he had never spoken these words out loud before. Her name was Lily. "I'm so sorry," Naomi whispered. "I spent 3 years wondering what I could have done differently. 3 years wishing I could go back and save her. I can't." Robert looked directly at Naomi. "But maybe I can help save your son." "I can't take your money," Naomi said firmly. "Then don't. Consider it a loan. Pay me back over time, whatever you can afford." "Mr. Body, Sullivan, Robert." "Robert," Naomi said, her voice thick with emotion. "I worked 3 jobs and I still can't make rent. I couldn't pay you back in 100 years. Then take 100 years. I don't care about the money, Naomi. I care about making sure another mother doesn't lose her child when there's something that can be done about it." Naomi shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand. I've been on my own since I was 17. I've made my own way, taken care of myself and my son without anyone's help. If I take your money, what does that make me?" "Human," Robert said softly. "It makes you human, and it makes Marcus a child who deserves to live, regardless of how much money his mother makes." They sat in silence, the weight of the decision hanging between them. "Why me?" Naomi finally asked. "You don't even know me. I know you gave your umbrella to a stranger in the rain. I know you worked 3 jobs for your son. I know you're the kind of person who deserves to have something good happen to them." Robert paused. And I know that helping you would help me. I've been empty for 3 years, Naomi. Maybe this is how I start to fill that emptiness." Naomi looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the pain beneath the expensive suit and corporate polish. She saw a father who had lost everything that mattered. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, but I will pay you back, every single penny, somehow." Robert smiled. A real smile, the kind that reached his eyes. "I'm counting on it." The surgery was scheduled for the following Thursday. Robert arranged everything: the best pediatric heart surgeon in the state, a private recovery room, everything Marcus would need. He deposited the full amount directly to the hospital, refusing to let Naomi see the bill. "You'll see it eventually," he said, "when you start paying me back. But for now, let's just focus on getting Marcus through this." The night before the surgery, Naomi couldn't sleep. She lay next to Marcus in their small apartment, the eviction temporarily on hold thanks to a mysterious, anonymous donor who had paid her back rent, though Naomi suspected Robert was behind that too and watched her son sleep. "Tomorrow you're going to get your heart fixed," she whispered. "And then you're going to grow up and become that doctor you want to be. And you're going to help other kids just like you." Marcus stirred but didn't wake. Naomi kissed his forehead 3 times, their ritual, and tried to pray. But the words wouldn't come. She was too terrified to pray, too afraid that if she asked God for this one thing and didn't get it, her faith would shatter completely. At 5 in the morning, her phone rang. It was Robert. "I know you're awake," he said. "Want some company?" He arrived 20 minutes later with coffee and breakfast sandwiches from a place that was probably too expensive for takeout. They sat in Naomi's small kitchen, and Robert told her about Lily, told her the memories he had kept locked away. "She loved butterflies," he said. "We were planning to take her to a butterfly conservatory the week she died. I still have the tickets." Naomi reached across the table and took his hand. "Tell me more about her." And he did. He talked until the sun came up, sharing his daughter with someone for the first time since she died. And Naomi listened, understanding that this was part of his healing, that helping Marcus was about more than charity or guilt. It was about honoring Lily's memory. At the hospital, Marcus was brave. He joked with the nurses, told the surgeon he wanted to be a heart doctor too, and gave his mama a thumbs up as they wheeled him into the operating room. "Love you, mama. Love you more, baby. I'll be right here when you wake up." The surgery was supposed to take 6 hours. Robert stayed with Naomi the entire time, sitting in the waiting room, getting coffee, making sure she ate. Other family members from the nursing home where Naomi worked came, residents she had cared for, colleagues who loved her. Mrs. Rodriguez arrived with half the neighborhood. "You see," the elderly woman said to Naomi, "you're not alone." At hour 5, the surgeon came out. Everyone stood. Dr. Chen's face was serious. There were complications. Naomi's knees buckled, but Robert caught her. The hole was larger than the imaging showed, and there was additional damage we didn't anticipate. We had to perform a more extensive repair. Dr. Chen paused, and Naomi stopped breathing. "But Marcus is strong. He came through it. He's in recovery now, and he's stable." The waiting room erupted in cheers and tears. Naomi collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief so profound it felt like her body couldn't contain it. Robert knelt beside her, tears streaming down his own face. "He's okay. Marcus is okay." When they finally let Naomi see her son, Marcus was pale and hooked up to more machines than she could count, but he was breathing. His chest rose and fell with steady, strong breaths. "Hi, Mama," he whispered groggily. "Hi, baby. You did so good. So good. Is Mr. Toffai, Robert here?" Naomi looked back at Robert, who stood in the doorway. "I'm here, Marcus. Thank you for helping my mama. She tries to be strong all the time, but sometimes she needs help too." Robert had to turn away, his shoulders shaking. When he turned back, his face was streaked with tears. "Your mama is the strongest person I've ever met," he said, "and you're just like her." Over the next week, as Marcus recovered in the hospital, something beautiful unfolded. Robert visited every day, bringing books and puzzles. Naomi's community rallied, organizing a fundraiser to help with her lost wages. The nursing home where she worked started a collection, and even residents on fixed incomes gave what they could. I have to ask you something, Naomi said to Robert one evening as they sat in Marcus's room, watching him sleep peacefully. Anything. Why did you really do this? And please tell me the truth. Robert was quiet for a long moment. When Lily died, I thought kindness died with her. I thought the world was just people taking from each other, using each other. I built my company, made my money, and convinced myself that was enough. He looked at Marcus, then at Naomi. But when I saw you give away your umbrella, when I heard you were working 3 jobs for your son, when I saw you refuse help because of your pride, I realized I was wrong. Kindness isn't dead. I was just too angry to see it. He turned to Naomi, his voice breaking. Helping Marcus gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. It gave me purpose. It made me feel like maybe Lily's death wasn't completely meaningless. If I can honor her memory by helping another child live, then maybe I can learn to live again too. Naomi took his hand. You're a good man, Robert Sullivan. I'm trying to be. You're teaching me how. On the day Marcus was discharged, Dr. Chen pulled Naomi aside. Your son is going to need follow-up care, probably for the rest of his life. But his heart is strong now. He's going to be okay. 3 simple words. He's going to be okay. They were the most beautiful words Naomi had ever heard. 6 months later, Naomi stood in a classroom at the community college, wearing scrubs that actually belonged to her, not borrowed, not secondhand, but hers. She had enrolled in a nursing program, something she had dreamed about for years but never thought possible. Robert had insisted on paying for it, not as charity but as an investment in someone he believed in. Naomi had argued, of course, but eventually accepted, adding the tuition to the running tally of what she owed him. The list was long, but for the first time in her life, Naomi felt like she was building towards something instead of just surviving. Marcus was thriving. The scar on his chest was healing, and while he still had regular cardiology appointments, Dr. Chen said his heart was functioning beautifully. He had started playing soccer carefully, with restrictions, and his dream of becoming a doctor had only grown stronger. I'm going to be a pediatric heart surgeon, he announced at dinner one night, just like Dr. Chen. And I'm going to help kids for free so their mamas don't have to worry. Naomi smiled, her heart full. I believe you will, baby. Robert had become a regular part of their lives, not as a benefactor, but as a friend. He came to Marcus's soccer games, helped with homework, and joined them for Sunday dinners. He had started a foundation in Lily's name, providing medical assistance to families who couldn't afford life-saving treatments for their children. You know what Naomi taught me? Robert said at the foundation's launch event, speaking to a room full of donors and press. She taught me that grace isn't about having all the answers or all the resources. It's about showing up anyway. It's about giving your umbrella away even when you're getting wet. It's about working 3 jobs to save your child's life. It's about accepting help when you need it, even when every fiber of your being wants to refuse. He paused, his eyes finding Naomi in the crowd. Lily's foundation exists because a single mother showed me that kindness isn't weakness, and that the help we give to others is often the healing we need ourselves. The room erupted in applause, but Robert was looking only at Naomi, who had tears streaming down her face. After the event, they walked through the city park, Naomi, Robert, and Marcus. The boy ran ahead chasing butterflies, his laughter floating back to them on the warm spring breeze. I've been keeping track, Naomi said, pulling out a small notebook. I owe you $147,312, including the rent you paid, the tuition, and the surgery. Naomi, I'm going to pay you back. Not all at once, but I will. I make a payment schedule. $50 a month to start, and when I finish nursing school and get a better job, I'll increase it. Robert stopped walking. You know I don't care about the money. I know, but I do. You gave me more than money, Robert. You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that accepting help doesn't make me weak, it makes me human. But I need to do this. I need to show Marcus that we pay our debts, that we honor the people who help us. Robert nodded slowly. Okay, $50 a month, but I have one condition. What's that? You're not allowed to thank me anymore. What you've given me is worth far more than any money. Naomi smiled. What have I given you? A reason to believe in people again, a purpose, a family. Robert's voice cracked. You and Marcus gave me my life back. They stood there in the park, watching Marcus chase butterflies, living, breathing, dreaming, and Naomi felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. You know what I realized? She said softly. What's that? God answered my prayers. Just not the way I expected. I prayed for money, for a miracle to save Marcus. But what God sent me was you, a person who needed saving just as much as we did. Robert smiled through his tears. Funny how that works, isn't it? Yeah, funny. Marcus ran back to them out of breath but glowing with health. Did you see? I almost caught one. I saw a baby. Maybe next time. As they walked back toward the parking lot, Marcus between them holding both their hands, Naomi thought about the long journey that had brought them here, the struggles, the fear, the impossible obstacles. And she thought about how one moment, one act of kindness on a rainy evening at a bus stop had changed everything. 2 years later, Naomi graduated from nursing school at the top of her class. Marcus was there, cheering louder than anyone, and Robert was beside him, pride written all over his face. I couldn't have done it without you, Naomi said to Robert after the ceremony. Yes, you could have. You're the strongest person I know. I just got to be part of your story. Our story, Naomi corrected. This is our story now. Robert pulled out a small box. I have something for you, a graduation present. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with 3 words, grace, strength, family. The 3 things you've taught me, Robert said, and the 3 things I'll carry with me forever. Naomi put on the bracelet, her eyes filling with tears. Thank you for everything. Thank you for letting me help, for teaching me that the greatest wealth isn't what you have, it's what you give away. Marcus tugged on Robert's sleeve. Are you going to marry my mama? Both adults laughed, blushing. Marcus, Naomi scolded gently. What? You like each other, and Mr. Robert is already like family. Robert knelt down to Marcus's level. Your mama is pretty special, but right now I'm just grateful to know you both. Is that okay? Marcus considered this seriously, then nodded. Okay, but just so you know, if you did want to marry her, I would say yes. They all laughed, and in that moment, surrounded by love and hope and the promise of tomorrow, Naomi felt truly blessed. Years would pass. Marcus would indeed become a pediatric heart surgeon, offering free clinics to children who couldn't afford care. Naomi would rise to become the head nurse at a children's hospital. Robert would expand Lily's foundation to help thousands of families. And yes, eventually Robert would ask Naomi to marry him, and she would say yes, and Marcus would walk her down the aisle with the biggest smile anyone had ever seen. That all of that was still to come. For now, on this perfect spring day, they were simply 3 people who had found each other when they needed it most. Proof that grace appears in the most unexpected places, and that the help we give to others is often the healing we desperately need ourselves. Sometimes the prayers we send up to heaven are answered not with money or miracles, but with people. People who see our struggle and choose to help, people who are fighting their own battles and find healing by easing someone else's burden. Naomi needed someone to save her son. Robert needed someone to save his soul, and in helping each other, they both found what they were searching for. The lesson here is simple but profound. True wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or possessions. It's measured in the lives we touch, the burdens we help carry, and the grace we extend, even when we're struggling ourselves. When you give your umbrella away in the rain, you might get wet, but you also might change someone's life. And in changing their life, you might just save your own. Be the person who stops at the bus stop. Be the person who accepts help when you need it. Be the person who believes that kindness still exists in this world, because it does. It's in every single mother working 3 jobs. It's in every CEO who chooses purpose over profit. It's in every moment we choose to see each other's humanity instead of our differences. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power of kindness, faith, and perseverance. Remember, you are not alone in your struggles. Help is coming. Grace is real. And miracles happen every single day, sometimes in the form of a stranger at a bus stop. God bless you all.